Welcome to Knitting Keeps Me Sane. I'm Shelly, Dr. Sane Knitter on Ravelry and Instagram. And I thought I would give this try number 2. So last time I talked about how I tried to do a handmade Christmas and handmade all of the Christmas gifts and where that failed and where that succeeded. This time I thought that I would discuss the other knits that I had in 2020 and discuss those, what worked and what didn't. The problem with that, which I think it's a really good idea, but I can't find all of the knits because we moved, and so some of them are just scattered around the house. Some of them, because they've been used and cast off by the children so much, I can't necessarily find them. So I'm going to sort of go through and just show you what I can and that I found with me, and then sort of insert a photo, if I have one, of the things that I don't have with me that I can show you. So the first thing that I wanted to show you that I finished in 2020 was a baby sweater. And so this sweater is the Pomme de Pin sweater, and it is by Anne B. Hansen, and it is just such a cute little Gansey. And so here it is. So it's just a gorgeous colorway. It is Dye House Yarns Brindle Trails. Hang on. Bridal Trails DK. It was a one-of-a-kind colorway, and Serial Knitters, while they still had their brick-and-mortar store, was my local go-to yarn store, and now they're underground. And so I'm still, I still shop there, and she has her own colorways and her own dyeing and her own base, and she's an indie dyer now, most exclusively, but this is one of hers and I love it. It's just a beautiful, it's not a chocolatey brown, it's got a little bit more of a rose color to it. But anyway, so this pattern has an opening for those giant baby heads, right, with these 3 buttons, which I just got at Joann's. Ooh, it's got something on it, probably baby food. Well, what babies eat. He's not on baby food yet, but anyway, or when he was wearing this, he wasn't eating anything. So here at the top, you've got sort of a broken rib, and it's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. It's a nice texture for the top of the Gansey, and then down at the bottom portion, you've got sort of a mock cable up and down. Let's see if I can, without blowing that out there. Well, yeah. And then here is sort of a moss stitch. And the back is just plain. And the sleeves are just adorable. So he wore this straight home from the hospital. He didn't wear it home from the hospital, but like as soon as we brought him home, and he was 7.5 pounds at birth at 36 weeks. So he was a big baby, and this is the 0 to 3 month size, and it was a bit big at first for those first 2 weeks, but I just rolled up the hem, the cuffs, and just let it be, floppy on him until he fit it, and then he wore it for a month and a half or so, and so this is good. And of course, because he was a late preterm, he had a lot of trouble regulating his body temperature, so we just kept him bundled in wool, even though he was in April and May, and it worked really well. So he had this. He had another one that I had knit in 2019 in preparation for his arrival. It had little squirrels on it, and that was around here somewhere. But again, that one he outgrew, but that was a 2019 knit. So that Pomme de Pin sweater, which is just a pine cone, and I love it. I'm going to make another version in a red, I believe. That's what I have. I have a red and I have a blue, and I haven't really decided, but I think the red would look really good on him. So the next thing that I knit I don't have it. I don't know where it is. My kids decided that this was the best thing they'd ever felt, touched their skin. It was like, oh, so soft, so soft. So they had to have it, and I think I have worn it 3 times. Three times, because it's llama. And I had never knit with llama before, and so this yarn is Haiku by Skacel L'Amour. So llama, right? And it is 100% llama. It's a DK weight, and the color that I knit was 1705 Earth, and it was just a very natural looking color. I'll show you a picture. And it was in the Angleberry Cowl by Tess Young. So soft. I loved it. But again, children stole it from me. So this is what happens when you use really soft yarn. Your children take your things. I just never got around to getting any more of it and making more cowls for them, but I might have to do that. Maybe I'll change up my Christmas knitting this year and make cowls for them in that, or maybe I won't. I don't know. Have you noticed I'm indecisive at times? Okay, so then the other thing that I knit, and I talked about it on the first episode, the cardigan, it's a bolero that I knit for my oldest daughter for her birthday in June, and so it's warm, and I didn't want to use wool because I thought it would be too warm for her. I mean, we were having a pretty warm summer, and the past few years it's regularly got up into the hundreds, but as soon as it dips back down into the 70s, she's looking for a sweater. But I couldn't, but if I put the wool on her, she's like, oh, that's too hot. So I knit this in Sweet Georgia Yarns Flax and Silk DK, and so it's nice and cool, but it's still a good light layer for her. And it's called number 24 Lace Trim Bolero by Gail Bunn. And I like this sweater, but there were some things I didn't like about it that I think if I were to do it again, I would not do it this way. So if you can see, let me see, hold it back. Yeah, so you can kind of see that it's a really, it's a buttery color with flecks of, let's bring this in here, with flecks of sort of a brighter yellow. And yellow is her favorite color. So here I have this bolero with the lace trim on it. The thing that I don't like, you can see here, let me turn this down. There. You can see here this eyelet increase. I just don't like that at the raglan. I just think it looks weird because it's the only lace thing on the body of the sweater. And I don't know, I don't personally like the look of that. I know a lot of people do. I am not one of those people, but I did exactly according to pattern. And so that's what I knit. And you can see the opening here has this lace. So let's try this so you can see. This is a knitted on lace pattern, which was really easy to memorize, and it was really easy to do, except that when going around these curves, the suggested pickup amount was way too much. It ended up being seriously ruffly, and I had to just rip back, try again, rip back, try again, and I think I ripped it back like 5 separate times. I tried to convince myself in like the 3rd time that it was really okay and that she'd like it, but I just couldn't leave it. I did not like how ruffly it was. Like I wanted the lace to sort of pull out and you could see the beautiful lace and let it lie flat instead of being this big mess of ruffles right there. I mean, there are other designs where that's cool and that's what you're looking for, but that was not what I was looking for in this. I was looking for something nice and smooth to go over a hand-sewn dress that my mother had made for her, and that didn't work that way. So I had to pull it back and redo it 5 or 6 times. It was very frustrating. But I finally just sort of, as going around the bottom part of the curve, sort of took one rate and then up and around the other time. I didn't even bother to record or count how I had done that, because I just had to sort of just make it completely individual for the different part of the curve. But I really like, and you can see on the curve that that on the edge that we had that as well. And it's just a really pretty sort of a roughly edging deep picot, I guess. And so I really liked this, and it's the silk, flaxen silk, has really lasted quite well. She's worn it quite a lot, with and without the outfit that it was designed for, not designed, but chosen for. And so I'm pretty happy with that. And it actually still fits her. It was a woman's size, and she was hitting those growth spurts, and so I knit her a small, or an extra small woman's size. And it works really well. She'll be able to wear it next year even, and so that's really good. And it's in her favorite color, and I really liked it. The only thing I didn't like, I am not a big fan, I've mentioned this before, of non-wool yarn, because it tends to non-natural animal fibers for yarn, because it really doesn't have much give. And the flaxen silk, it was okay, it was better than cotton, but again, it didn't allow much give, and I didn't care for it. I kind of have to be a little bit careful about the yarn that I use, because I get arthritic symptoms in my fingers from, I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and sometimes if my meds are a little bit not exactly right, which it's hard to keep it in balance, for a long time. There are ups and downs. So at that point where I was knitting it, it wasn't completely right, and so I was getting a lot of really stiff fingers. So in general, I just try to use animal fibers, because I never have any problems with that, with the yarn not giving enough and causing too much strain on my joints. Now the next thing that I worked on, so I bought this yarn in February of this year, and my mom and I went to Red Alder Fiber Arts, the former Madrona Fiber Arts, which we, ever since moving to the Pacific Northwest, we had enjoyed going every single year and buying yarn and sitting down and getting a chance to talk to other knitters and friends that we didn't see very often, and sit down at the restaurant there and have some of the food there, which is in the hotel restaurant. It's so good. Expensive, but so good. So we went to Red Alder Fiber Arts, and this was in February. So then he was born 2 months later, my son, my youngest, Angus, sweetie pie. And so I, at that point, was 6 months pregnant, and so it's not too bad walking around, but I get big, especially since this is, I've had a few pregnancies. The body's like, we'll just expand now. So walking around was a little hard. The cold, rainy days really felt good, but it was really stuffy in there, so I couldn't stay for too long because I just overheated. But that's me. So I'm wandering around and I'm thinking I really wanted to find a yarn for a baby blanket, because I've been struggling since about 3 months pregnant. So for 3 months I just struggled trying to figure out what blanket to make for him, and knowing this is going to be my last baby and I'll have a chance to make grandchildren blankets or friend blankets, but this is for my last. So I wanted it to be something that just felt very heirloom-like, and that maybe was a little different than I usually made. And I had tried different things with yarn that I had in stash, and just nothing was right. And I couldn't even really decide on a pattern because I didn't have the right yarn. So I'm wandering around hoping that inspiration will strike. It did. So I saw the Island Fibers booth. They're a Washington yarn producer, and they had up this sport weight that was a sort of a test spin at a new mill that they were trying. They had delivered one fleece to them as a test spin, and I loved it. It was undyed. It was sort of a gray color. I'll show you in a second. And so I'm talking with them about it, and the fleece it's rustic, but you could still feel where, given a little bit of wash, it could be absolutely just so soft. And the color was natural, undyed, and this beautiful gray, beigey brown that was very heirloom, just that rustic heirloom feel to it. And I just knew that's what I had to have. So thank you, Toby, the Romney sheep, for your fleece. I have made this beautiful blanket for my baby. I used the Jack and Jill baby blanket pattern by Katherine Anderson. And I finished it the day I went to the hospital to be induced 4 weeks early. I keep saying that, but it bears repeating. In my mind anyway. So this is, I can't remember, this is up or down. It's up or down, yeah, it's whatever. So this is the baby blanket. It is actually unblocked because I didn't get a chance to block it, and then we've just been continuously using it, so I didn't block it. So this is the pattern, and you can see it's got some cabling, it's got moss stitch, it's got just some stockinette and eyelets here. So it has sort of a tumbling blocks kind of a look to it, or like a 3D, like a 3D block, or sort of an antler's horn motif. Like, you can see just a lot of different shapes in there. And I will eventually block this, but he's always using it, and it's our go-to blanket. So I just, it'll get washed. And this, so anyway, this is the pattern. I did not make it as wide, not as wide, as long as the pattern called for, because I just wanted it square. So I cast on, and then when it was approximately square, I bound off. I did the final pattern and bound it off. And it has been our favorite blanket. And he has one other blanket that we use with him now that he's really, as soon as he started really grabbing onto things, I got him a store-bought blanket with a ribbon on it. But in winter, when it's cold, I took it from him right now so I could show you. He's napping, so he has his store-bought blanket with the ribbon. But usually we use this. And especially if we're going to go outside, we'll wrap this around him, and that keeps him nice and warm. And he loves it. He recognizes that it's his and is like, mine. And so I might have to stop and go get him. Let's see if he wakes up. So the next thing, so that was an A+ knit. I absolutely adore it, and he loves it too. So the next thing that I did a bunch of, I don't know if I have a picture of this, but my middle daughter has wanted a pussy hat, and it's in this bright pinks. Again, it was the Dye House yarns by Serial Knitters. I don't remember, I lost the ball band before I actually knit up with it, but it's got the stellina, so it's sparkly, and it's 4-color gradient of pink. Not my thing. Her thing completely. Looks fabulous on her. As soon as I finished it, and I had to steal it away and stash it away for her birthday. And otherwise she would have taken it completely. She loves it. I'm thrilled. So now my youngest daughter is like, yeah, I need one, but in green. So I will be working on that. So yeah, he's not going to sleep. I'll be back. So gave baby to his dada, and we'll see how long that works. He likes to sleep on my husband, so that's good. Not very often, because not the mama, but he'll sometimes accept my husband as a substitute. His dada. He's like, I smell you. I know you look familiar. Okay, so the other non-Christmas knit that I made was a sweater I made Descent by Andrea Rangel, and I did the pullover hack because I was using a worsted weight, which that version is a cardigan for the worsted weight, and I wanted the pullover, but I didn't have fingering weight in stash that I wanted to use. So I did the pullover hack. Very clear directions. She provided very clear directions. So thank you, Andrea Rangel, for that, because that primo. Thank you. So I used my favorite of all time yarn dyer, who is no longer dyeing, much to my sadness and grief. Black Trillium. Ugh. Love her. So I had in stash Dark Matter and Super Happy Fun. So Dark Matter, is a nice, rich black color, and Super Happy Fun is a cream natural, a natural cream base with rainbow speckles. Fabulous. So, and I've had that in stash for a while, and nothing was ever right for it. But I needed to knit this, and I needed it in my life. So after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and I'm looking in my stash to determine what I should knit, I wanted a nice contrast. I said, okay, good. I've got this black and then this white, and that's perfect. And the rainbow speckles. She advocated for women and for LGBTQ plus rights. Perfect. She advocated for everybody, and I thought that this would do it. Would be perfect. So here it is. So let me just put this on. I made it kind of cropped, which is not my usual thing. I don't usually like it. I like my sweaters to come right at the hip, usually. But I thought, I'm toward the end of the sweater, I realized that this is the one I was a bit loose on gauge, and so it was going to be flowier than I had anticipated. Not enough that I was willing to rip it back, because I had it's not like it had 3 inches of extra width or anything, but it was going to be roomier. So I thought, okay, let's try cropping it and see what we think. It's been a style lately, and it has looked really good on a lot of figures. Let's try it on mine. I liked it. First time I put it on, my husband saw it. He goes, ooh, that's different than normal. I like that. Looks good. So my husband noticed and commented positively, so this is good. He never comments negatively, by the way. It's just, oh, you look good. You look very good, are usually his comments. But he says, oh, that's a different length than normal. That looks really good on you. Like, he put actual thought into it, so like, I figure this must be, it's an extra boost of notice for me. So this sweater, and I wear it pretty regularly, and you can see it's got a fairly wide neck, again, which I like, and I will just wear it just on top of a shirt or sweater, shirt like this. And if I know that I'm going to be outside, and if it's really wet and really cold, because it is extra roomy, I have a cardigan that I knit years and years ago, also Black Trillium, but in a lighter, in her DK, I think, instead of her worsted. and it's a slimmer fit on me. And so I'll wear that, and it's got long sleeves, and with this on top, I don't need a jacket or a coat on top. I'm perfectly comfortable with a t-shirt and then those two wool sweaters. And my children are huddling in their coats, and I'm like, yeah, wear your wool sweater. So can you tell my brain just flits around? It's amusing being in my head. I hope it's a little bit amusing for you to see. Okay. So this is the color work portion, and I love it. And you can see the rainbow speckles. Maybe let me bring this a little closer. It's a little hard to see, but it's really fun, and I've gotten quite a number of compliments on this when I wear it. So I think almost every time that I've worn it out in public, which of course, I'm not out in public all that much during COVID, but when I do, one of the most notable times is I went to the post office, I'm waiting in line, got the mask on, and a lady was leaving. She said, "Oh, nice sweater." It's like, "Oh, thank you." It's just a very quick and passing, but I'm like, "Oh, you like my sweater." So let me just stand up and show you. So it's not necessarily a flattering camera angle, but I mean, you get the idea. So here is the top of my hip, here's the waist, right? And then where I usually like them is to fall right around here. So it's a good 3 inches shorter than normal. And so it's really quite easy to wear, and I like to wear it with some of my dresses where I've got pockets, and it's really easy to reach the pockets, where if I am wearing the longer sweaters, sometimes I have to lift up the sweater to get my hands in my pockets, and that's not a big deal, but that not needing that extra motion there is really nice sometimes when I just need to grab something out of my pockets. And so this is my go-to sweater. I can definitely foresee some other sweaters knit in this sort of a style. So the next thing that I knit that was not for the homemade Christmas, so I tried again a version like this for my mom, but the gauge was off. I had started that before I finished this one, and then when I finished this one I realized it was off. Double checked hers again, same yarn, it was off as well. So, or no, not same yarn, but very similar gauge, because they're both worsted, and it was off as well. So the other things that I've worked on, we have a couch downstairs in our family room that we let the dogs on, and the covers have gotten little holes in it from them just sort of like, they'll dig a little bit to try to get comfortable, and it'll get a little hole, which gets bigger over time. So I'm just crocheting little doilies to put on it. And I had the stack right there, ready and waiting. My children love these little doilies. I have to make more. I don't know what they're using them for, but away they've gone. And I'm just using regular cotton, doily cotton, in a couple of different colors. I've got red and yellow and white, and so I'm going to just sew these onto the couch. So since I no longer have them here, and I don't know what the children did with them, thank you for loving what I do, my darlings, but please bring back my doilies. Anyway, the next thing I knit, I made a dice bag for my oldest son's birthday to hold his D&D dice. And I'll have to show you a picture because he has it holding his dice, and I'm just not going to take it from him right now. He loves it. So it was crocheted, not knit. And it is the Mother of Dragons dice bag by Rachie Nguyen, and it was a very well written pattern, and it's just a really cool little bag. Kind of like if you remember the dragon scales, I think it was dragon scales. So there were booties and socks that had this cuff that had the dragon scales on it. It's a lot like that, but how you make the little scales is a little different. And I really liked it. I knit it in Malabrigo Rios Aniversario. Loved it. Loved it. It was a fast knit up crochet. Hooked it up in 3 or 4 hours. So for me, just over a day. And I hoofed it too. I don't generally get that much time to knit or crochet, so that was good. So the pattern, once you were just knitting the height, I didn't need the pattern anymore. After like one round, it was memorized. So I will be making more of these for my other children because everybody loved it, and everybody plays D&D, and so they'll want, or Magic the Gathering, and they'll need their dice. So yay, I'll just do different colors. So I found my husband's socks that I made him as his Christmas present, and it's just a simple, I used Tin Can Knits rye sock pattern, and it's hard to tell, but you can see here's the stockinette portion, here's the garter stitch, and I used leftover Malabrigo Rios you can see it's got stuff on it because he wears it all the time to keep his feet warm, and the toe as well, heel, cuff, and toe in Malabrigo Rios. And the black is Cloudborn Yarns Highland, I think. It's got a really heavy twist to it, and I love it. So this yarn is actually technically discontinued. It was made for Craftsy so that people could have access to an affordable yarn to be used for their classes. And then of course Craftsy went away, but I guess they're back now, and I'm hoping they'll bring back the yarn too, because love it. As a workhorse yarn, this is fantastic. This is really good. I have typically used Cascade 220 as my go-to worsted heavy DK workhorse yarns for like baby knits and some blankets or things. And I would replace it with this in a heartbeat. This is fantastic. I absolutely love it. And I wish that I had known about them sooner. Sorry, it's dirty, but again, this is the thing. I don't have a sock blocker big enough, but maybe if I show it on here, it'll help you to see. Oh yeah, my sock blocker has a sock on it. It has a fox on it. Love it! All right, anyway, I'll have to put the information up about who made that. They were in Europe, and she did such a good job. These are amazing sock blockers. Anyway, this is the sock. You can see the detailing here. Love it. He loves it. And it was so fast. It was so fast because they're worsted socks. So he will be getting more of these because working from home, he will sometimes work out in the garage to get total peace and quiet, or if I need this room, because otherwise he'll work in here, but if I need this room for all the things that I do, when I do the things I do, then he'll work out there. But he gets cold when because the garage is not, it's just a huge garage, and the heater that's out there is a wood burning stove, and he doesn't really want to start a fire in there unless he's going to be in there for a while and not waste the starter and the wood and everything, and really have to pay attention for safety, right? So he'll have a little heater in there, but then his feet get cold because it's still, even with the heater on and even the best that we can do to insulate an area for him, it still stays in like 45 degrees, 50 degrees when it's 30, 32, 33 degrees outside because it's a garage. So with my socks, his feet stay a lot warmer, so he's a lot more comfortable. So I'm just going to have to knit him some more of those. And then he's worn them when going out to work on, yard, garden, whatever stuff he needs to do in the yard. And he's much more comfortable that way too. And then now that we go up into the snow parks, again, absolutely must have the wool. So one other thing that I worked on this year, and I have not finished it, but I'm hoping to finish it within a couple of days. And it was actually a test knit. And so the requirement for this test knit was just to knit one. And so I knit one pretty quickly, and I knew that I wanted it for my son. It is called Clearly Determined by Lisa K. Ross. And so it's a Harry Potter themed sock, and it is in Wild Star Fibers Stella sock in the colorway Sublime. This is a gorgeous blue, and you can see that it's a variegated, and these stripes are you can see them, but they're a lot more subtle than the light here is showing. Yeah, see, it's showing more. It's really about like that, but sort of a brighter blue. So it's, yeah. This is pretty accurate. This with the bit of green in there is showing up quite a bit darker because it's more of a blue-green right there, and the light is just kind of off. So that's about what it looks like in real life, I think. Right about like that. Yep, right there. So you can see the texture here. You can see this rib here. So what I loved the most about this pattern is this cable right here that separates into two separate cables. I love it. I don't know. I saw that and I was charmed beyond reason, and I had to test these socks, and I knew my son would love them, and he does. He's been pestering me to finish the other sock, but again, I gotta finish some other deadline knitting that I missed the deadlines. Oops. Okay, it's just one thing that I need to finish, but I'm not quite done with my youngest son's sweater that I need to finish for tomorrow. And I can do that. It just won't get blocked. Maybe. I might be able to block it. If I put a little fan on it near the heater, it won't take too long to dry. It's just about whether or not I get enough knitting time tonight. I'll throw the children at my husband. That'll work. So here is a better, so you can see that cable, which is just fantastic. And then this pattern here, and it's just beautiful. It was just a really fun knit, and it was really nice to have a little cabled something to work on amidst all of this, either color work, or I finished the color work and now it's just straight stockinette knitting. I need a little something, and this helped cure what ailed me. So that was all the knitting that I had done, and I sort of call this done just because the requirement was to get one sock done. I am going to knit the other sock because it is a set for my oldest son, and he loves those socks, and his feet have grown ginormously, so I didn't have any more hand knit socks for him, and he'll love that. So that's what I finished. And I have some ongoing stash buster, like leftovers, scrappy projects, Scrappy Sunday. Thank you, Crazy Sock Lady for that for that term. I was watching her podcast and during COVID, and I was like, I've got to do Scrappy Sunday because I have so many scraps of yarns that I loved that I'm not just going to get rid of because I've got enough to do something with. I just don't know what, because I don't have enough for a full pair of socks. I'm just like not usually into a lot of scrappy projects, But seeing her work on some scrappy things, I was like, okay, I gotta sit down and figure it out. I have this scrappy project here. You can kind of see here that this is the mitered square blanket that I started years and years ago. Years and years ago I started this. Like, I can figure out spatial things. Okay. I started that years ago, and it's still not that big because I keep putting it down because I'm working on full projects. And so, yeah, so I started working on that, and it's now twice the size it was when we moved to Tacoma, I think, from Notre Dame. Yeah, it's like twice the size now that it was, which is still very small because I'm not repeating yet. I'm trying to get through all of my single leftovers, and then I've repeated a couple of colors, but not too many. So that's a fingering weight mitered square blanket. I have another one like it in worsted, but I'm doing a black border as you pick up, and I'm knitting 4. Well, I'll tell you about it later. I'll include that with my works in progress some other time. So I've got now 3 scrappy Sunday blankets, fingering, DK, worsted. And so those will just get worked on slowly, and on Sundays that's what I try to do. So that's kind of taken some of my knitting time, because Sundays are often a day that I can get even a block of 2 hours of like knitting done, time to myself. So anyway, so I've been working on that, and some of the yarns that I've been given I will be putting into the blanket. So, and then, so I wanted to show you, let me take this off. There we go. I wanted to show you a shirt. This is how I'm feeling. I'm not short, I'm a hobbit. Because my husband is a giant human person, and my oldest 2 children are now giant human persons and taller than me. And so yeah, I'm not short, I'm a hobbit. You know, I'm gonna save the world one day. I'm gonna destroy the ring. I'm gonna listen to Sam Wise. I'm such a dork. All right, well, that's me for today. I hope that you all are able to send out 2020 in whatever style you desire, and send it off with great fanfare, and we are done with 2020. Hopefully 2021 will be a little smoother. No promises. No promises. So, happy New Year's Eve to everyone. Happy New Year's, and I'll see you some other time. Thanks for watching.